Hey, Jennifer, thanks so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Excited to be.
Cool. Let's get started with the rapid fire set of questions. So these are just off the cuff questions, which you can answer any way you like it. You can keep it short. If you want to expand it, that's fine too. The first question I have for you is if you had the chance to be the governor of Georgia for one day, what would you do?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. We have we just reelected a governor as a second term, and he had a really tough job through the COVID crisis. And I think that, no matter your party and your opinion, Georgia did stay open with businesses moving. And I pretty much pride him in his efforts on what he had to do that. And anybody in that position would have had a really tough thing to do. And so I would, it's really hard to say anything above that type of situation. So maybe I would say a personal issue that I truly care about is transit and making public transportation a lot more plentiful. So maybe I would try to find a new state funding source for transit expansion in the Atlanta region. That I would try to find a little bucket somewhere for that and add to that particular place.
Cool. And if you had to explain your job as a lobbyist to a layman, how would you explain that?
That is a great question that I am very glad that you asked. And I am happy to say that I have practiced that elevator speech probably a number of times. So I have it down pretty short. And it is this: Georgia, and we're not the only state that does this, is a part-time legislature. And these elected officials here down at the Capitol 3 to 4 months a year have real jobs and real families and a lot more to do. And they cannot possibly read every single bill and know the ins and outs and both sides of that debate for every single bill that goes through the legislature in our biennial. And so it is my job, to the best of my ability, at least for my clients, to know those details and give that information to them as much as possible, early and often, and be in front of them to really help guide their decision if possible. And sometimes we may not agree fundamentally for whatever reason, and at least we can respect each other and walk away from that. But I did my job in trying to educate for the people that I'm fighting for.
And how would you inspire um, the current generation to be more involved in government relations or politics?
So I think that we are going through a time where a lot of people are getting more involved in politics and social issues, and you're seeing it a lot on social media, and that has changed a lot how the different legislatures do business. And so your elected officials are under many more microscopes than they probably have been before. And I think that they would appreciate a lot more feedback, personal feedback, not through the masses, but just having some discussions with the people that the general public, are constituents of. So, have a conversation with your elected official that's not heated, just your side of it, and make this much more of a conversation rather than different battles that you may feel you have to fight. I think that those are the ways that we really start making changes, when we all come to the table with conversation.
Makes sense. What is it, the one thing you would like to share with our listeners, which very few little people know about you?
Uh, Not politically related at all whatsoever, is I love to cook.
Ah, good.
So, I was born and raised in New Orleans. My first degree is in Baton Rouge, LSU, and cooking and food is a culture there. And so, I do a lot of my life revolves around that, a lot of my friendships, and it's a conversation that anyone can be interested in and is a great icebreaker for nearly any relationship that you're trying to create or cultivate.
Oh, sweet. And would you say you would be a cook if you weren't a lobbyist?
Yeah, so I took an aptitude test in high school, probably like we all did at some point, and it had some pretty unique answers on what I should be. And I think it was like a puppeteer, a detective, a ballet dancer, which I'm not supposed to be a dancer, and a chef. So that would have gone right along in line with that. So I do it on the side just for fun. It's very meditative. It's a great way to just get out the day.
That's good. And what would you say your biggest um, achievement is, both personally or career-wise?
Uh, well, I have a 2.5-year-old little boy who is absolutely beautiful and so smart and so sweet. And he is my greatest achievement because I can tell now the kind of person he's going to be. And that it basically, those children, and having children puts everything that's important to you either reformatted into different priorities, or your goals have changed to their goals. And so that is probably the thing that I am, most excited about to see, is him grow up and to see what he's going to do. And that's my goals now, is his happiness and his well-being.
Sweet. And as a segue to that, what is the one thing you would like your family to remember about you?
That I love them hard. Like, we actually have a very large family. We're really close. And we have a lot of dinners, we have a lot of family events. And so we, no matter what, are just have a lot of fun together, and we're always there for each other. And so just that I love them completely, utterly, unconditionally.
Sweet. And what is the best advice you've ever got?
Never burn bridges till you're independently wealthy. And
Wow.
that plays true in this particular career more than any other, probably, because you just never know the next session y'all are going to be together rather than the opposite side. So if you're going to fight clean and honest, and keep it above board, and have the most professional respect for each other as you possibly can.
Good answer. And what is the best compliment you ever received?
um, That's a good question. I'm not quite certain. I guess I would say the best compliment I've ever received is something I'm very proud of myself, that I work on a lot, is that I'm extremely efficient and to the point. Which sometimes people kind of like that long talk and conversation, or long writing of way of things. And I'm more direct, honest, to the point on things, and very efficient with how I do things and how I speak in general. So that's a compliment to me.
If you could have dinner with any three people, who would those be?
Mm. Great question. So, dead or alive?
Sure.
Okay. I will say I would love to have a conversation with Elton John. He's my favorite musician, but also great activist for the things he believes in. Angelina Jolie, she's the works with the UNHCR, which was a goal of mine at one point, a dream job, and that I wanted to do. And I think the two of them would complement that conversation, just general world help, really, really well. And the last one, oof, let's just throw in Ryan Reynolds, because he's really funny, and I think he would just add humor to the conversation.
Oh, I love Ryan Reynolds. He's
None of them are political, unfortunately.
no, it doesn't have to be. And one last question. If you had the time capsule to go back to any time back in the day, or any era, which time would you pick?
Maybe not too long ago, because I'm very proud and thankful to all the women before me that I'm allowed to do the jobs that I do, and vote even, and have rights. So I don't know if I could go without those. I think my strong personality might not be okay with that. So I think maybe, I think it would be fun to maybe be in the 50s, 60s when we first started to get into that workforce and see what that was like. The fashion was cute, so that's not bad. And see the progression of women go through that and witness it firsthand. So, because I'm very thankful for that.
Oh, that's a beautiful answer. So with that, let's jump a little bit into your past. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How was your childhood like, and were you interested in politics at all?
That's a funny question. Not at all. I honestly, I'm from South Louisiana. I'm graduated from a place called Belchase High School, which is a public school down in Louisiana, just south of New Orleans, a little piece that hangs off there. And then I went to LSU to start for architecture. And I really wanted to do naval architecture, marine engineering. My mom and stepdad that I grew up with worked in the shipyards in New Orleans, and I grew up going to the yards, watching the boats be either built or fixed, and that was life. And I wanted to be the top of that chain, and because they were very blue collar workers. My mom, I'm pretty proud, was one of the first women allowed into some of the shipyards. So, in my high school years, there were still shipyards that did not allow women on the yard. And she worked for a construction company that built the interiors of the boats. And so, she had to go in and do the finishing work on these things. So she proudly wore a hot pink hard hat and everything to go on there. And so, that can give you some idea of, who raised me and how I got into the work that I did. So I'm very thankful for that. And then when I went to school, I was like, okay, well, I definitely want to be the top of that chain that I saw growing up, the thing that I know. So I'm going to go do naval architecture, marine engineering. And a lot of math and stuff later, realized that I kind of just wanted to be a lawyer and argue or to do the courtroom a little bit. And so went into political science undergrad, thinking, of course, I'll go to law school after that. And that was about the time that Katrina hit. And so when I was at LSU for my first undergrad, we survived Katrina. And then shortly thereafter, we had the 2008 market crash. So being in college and coming just out of college in South Louisiana at that particular juncture, it was not a lot of career opportunity. And so I took a hard look around at the time, being licensed and selling insurance and stuff, which had nothing to do with what I graduated with. I wanted to go back to school, and which a lot of my generation at that time did for extended education. And I thought, if I'm going to go back and pay for this and do it all again, I want to make sure it's going to be in a field that I'm going to have a job no matter what happens, because we just had a lot happen. And so that would be the health field. And so I really wanted to do global health or public health. And Georgia has some really great universities and master's programs for that. And so I came here. I did a second undergrad at Georgia State in sociology, while I did a lot of research for Emory University, Emory School of Medicine. I worked for Emory School of Medicine for 2.5 years, I think, doing a PTSD research study for an impoverished demographic at our public hospital here in Georgia, in Atlanta. It's called Grady Hospital. And so did a few publications, did a lot of research, learned a lot about a lot. And that led to my master's in public health over at UGA. And so I did a semester abroad in Israel while I was over there, and did 2 graduate certificates in emergency management and global health during the time of the Hamas conflict, which was very interesting because that really taught me that you were either made to run into the storm or run from it. And having grown up with storms, I'm very comfortable with them and realize that I really can enjoy running into them to do what needs to be done. And I mean, that sort of translates to this job, right? It's a few months out of the year, you're in the trenches, you're on the ropes, you're fighting the battles, and you need to be able to think quick and do what's best for the people that you're protecting and working for. And so it's a lot of teamwork, and it's a lot of fun, and it's that high energy field, I think, that I was looking for. It's not exactly WHO saving the world, but it's as close as I'm going to get for now. So that's how I got to where I am. And into Georgia politics specifically is an interesting story. It's completely by accident. I was working at a restaurant that is pretty popular here in Atlanta, great steakhouse, House Steakhouse, and a lot of legislators and lobbyists alike go there pretty often. And so a regular of mine came in, and he was a client to a lobbyist that was with him, good friend. And that guy became my mentor, and he was the first person to hire me under the Golden Dome. And he hired me part-time, temporary, for the first session I ever worked in politics for. I didn't even know where the Capitol was in Georgia, but we found it pretty easy. It's got a big gold top. And so he ended up keeping me on the team for about 3 or 4 years after that, and taught me a ton of which I know now and use every day. And he's an amazing mentor, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity he took on some server in a restaurant.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And so you did your degree in political science, and you graduated in 2006. And then there was a brief hiatus, right, for about 4 years until you moved to Georgia. So what was the transition? Why did you move to Georgia? And what did you do during that time?
A lot. Again, during that time in South Louisiana, there was, not a lot of job opportunities. So, I mean, a lot of service industry, which serves me well. The personal skills in that industry really translate to this one, but a lot of bartending, serving. And then at the end there, I think I mentioned license and insurance and selling that. And so that helped me a little bit. And when it came to covering some insurance issues here, so I'm very thankful for everything. Kind of helped me know what I need to know to do my job now, whether it's skills that I learned or a little bit more about some topic that I've had to cover throughout the years. So that was the hiatus. And coming to Georgia was really because I wanted to go to Emory. Their School of Public Health is absolutely amazing, which they did offer me a position when I applied for my master's program, but so did UGA, which was a little bit less expensive. And I love SEC football, so I chose Georgia.
Okay, makes sense. So after you got your master's in health policy, so the first position you took, can you talk us through as to, what were your responsibilities there and what did you learn from it?
Yes. So that was the first political job that I had. It was I graduated in December. I graduated a semester early because I did a lot of credits in that semester abroad that I did. So I did it as quick as possible. And January is our legislative session that just started, as a matter of fact. And so as soon as I graduated, I walked into the Capitol, and that was my first job post my graduate degree, and first job in politics. And the contract lobbying firm that I worked for at the time had represented a few medical specialty associations. So that really helped, the public health degree, the insurance background really played well with that. So my responsibility essentially was to go to, both House and Senate HHS or insurance committees. So all 4 of those, I covered all 4 of those, just note taking and sending client updates to make sure that they knew what was happening in real time. We were definitely one of the best at getting information to the client as quickly as possible, even if it was in raw form. Information is money in this career. And so we did a really good job at that. And we were a smaller team. It was about 3 of us at the time. And because of that, that was also the year we were doing the gas tax bill in Georgia, 2015. That really changed infrastructure here. And so we had a client that was really excited about that particular piece. And helped spearhead that fight that year that we won. And so that, because we were such a small team, we covered everything, even though my specialty was the health realm. And so that's really where I got into infrastructure transportation, which is more my niche now, from there, because we all helped on everything. So that really put me in the center of a lot of things here in Georgia politics, and made a lot of really great relationships quickly. And so from there, I've gone through a few different roles in a few different groups here, and each of them have always been a better opportunity, a move up, more responsibility, a more interesting role in some way, shape, or form that would help me or teach me more. And that is just something I crave. So that my track since then has been more in the transportation infrastructure space. So it went from health to that. But back at contract lobbying, I do a little bit of everything, and I love that. I think that you have the in-house folks that go deep into one set of issues, and then you have the contract guys who do a little bit of everything. And I think that I really enjoy that. I like the challenge behind it. I like the excitement behind it. I like that it's a lot of relationships with each of the entities that you work with and work for.
And if you had to take all the experience you've had up until this point, and if you had to filter it down and tell us one really important policy you've worked on, and after that, if you could also share one failure and what did you learn from it, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, sure. One really great success. I mean, I would love to say that I've worked on some fantastic social issue that means a lot to me, but we just don't get hired to do that, believe it or not. We get hired to fix the regulation of the air conditioning coolant in whatever state it is. So a lot of what we do isn't really sexy. But I will say personally, one of the things that I did that I'm very proud of was a client of mine. This was at the previous firm, needed a tax incentive extension. We have sunsets on our tax incentives here in Georgia, so make sure we look at them on a regular basis. And it was going to be a heavy lift, and there's some people on both sides that didn't necessarily love it. And my client is the only entity in Georgia that would reap that reward, because they're the only company in Georgia that did it. And there's only 2 other companies on the eastern coast that does that work. And it was in 2 other states that each of them had their own incentive. And if we didn't continue that particular tax incentive, Georgia would have lost that business and some jobs. And now it's granted, it's not like a huge factory, but it meant something to Savannah, the Port of Savannah, which is where the client sits. And so it was a heavy lift, and it was a lot of fight, and it was a lot of negotiation and a lot of education, but it meant something. And I think being passionate about it and believing in it and talking about it enough that, we got a win out of that. And I was really proud of that. It was probably one of my first real major wins. And I would say that I'm so thankful for everyone that contributed to it, because it definitely was not done solo. And so that was a huge team effort, legislator and lobbyists alike. And so that I led. And so I was really proud of that piece. And a failure. I mean, we have failures each year, right? We're trying not to keep score on that one. So there's been a few bills that probably didn't make it across, and I honestly don't know if I remember them to see if there was one in particular. But I will say, I find that your failures are probably because you didn't inform the right people, educate the right people, give enough professional courtesy to the other side. So I think I've learned lessons from all my failures, and I'll say that's the answer to that. I don't remember one in particular that hits, but I do know that I learned some lessons that I need to make sure that I follow through on to not have them as often.
Yeah, good answer. So now you are the Vice President of Government Relations at Ohio River South. Can you tell us a little bit about what your organization does and what your role is going to be here?
That's a great question, and it's a answer that I've had to practice a little because our organization actually does a whole lot. The president CEO Howard Franklin of Ohio River South started off in local campaigns and school boards, council members, county officials, and a few state figures, I think, and very successfully. And so it started off as a campaign group. And the name Ohio River South is because the Ohio River used to be the economic engine of America. And so he wanted to model the organization after that and, become somewhat of that economic engine, at least in the region of Ohio River and South. And so we do nearly anything that is needed by a client that touches the government space. If it's a local procurement, state lobbying, we do work with some federal teams to get some federal work done. And it's more problem solving than it is just government relation conversations. We do more than get you to the table or in the room. We definitely strategize with you. And sometimes it's hard conversations with clients of here's what we think you should do and why, or it's conversations around, I hear what you're asking, but tell me why you want that or what your end goal is, because we might have a better idea. And so we really do a lot of things. We do a lot of advocacy campaigns, PR, communications, and sometimes that PR is emergency needed because it's not always positive. And so we have some success with that. We do anything on the local and state level. So it's a lot. And my role as Vice President of State Government Relations is to lead our lobbying team at the state capitol. Howard and I started at the Capitol together almost a decade ago. And where he did a lot outside of the Capitol in politics still, I've really focused on state capitol stuff solely. And so he really thought that it would be good to have someone that really focused on that one space for the team. And so he could be able to run about and do everything else that our company does. And so he asked me to come along, and I did. And the most exciting part about this role for me is it's the first time that I am leading a lobbying team. And I frankly don't think I'm completely qualified to do so. But I think that we'll all figure it out together. I have an amazing team I'm very, very excited about. And we have had a lot of deep dive conversations and trainings of how to do the Capitol, how we're going to do the Capitol, some processes, some procedures, our legislative agendas for all of our clients. So everyone is on the same side, on the same page, ready with their strategy and actions day to day. And that teaching, mentoring, if you want to call it that, I'm not sure I have a ton of knowledge to bestow to anyone, but is kind of something I'm extremely passionate about and love doing. And the people that I work with right now, I'm very, very excited to work with and help them through this year, which is going to be a quick one because we already have the calendar and our sine die date, which is historical in my time to have it all out in once. And I want to say hats off and thank you to the new leadership in both chambers that was able to get that out. It's nice to be able to strategize for your clients and plan with your families.
That's good. And as far as your organization goes, do you have a certain type of clients who you work with? Is it like all verticals, or is it only specific verticals you work with? How do you pick your clients?
We pick our clients by if we can help you for what you need. Again, Ohio River South does nearly anything in the political realm. So tell us what you need. We'll see if we can come up with a strategy. If you like that and whatever our fee is, of course, then we can help you. We're not really particular on the type of client. And we do have a pretty large plethora. We have a good book of just state lobbying. And then we have a good book of procurement. And then some people that kind of fall into a gray area of what is it that you need politically strategized, that is much different than either of those. So yeah, it's interesting. It's fun. Yeah.
Cool. And what advice or if someone was looking to getting into lobbying, how would you advise them to get started?
Great question. If you're younger and in college, go volunteer and do a semester or so and be an aide at the Capitol, at your Capitol, wherever it is. Get involved now and really get to know the process. And that's really where you can make some relationships. But if you do that, absorb it. Don't just bask in the glow of how cool it is, because it is, but really take the opportunity to go sit in different committees, go learn the process, go to the floor every time you can, shake as many hands as possible. Utilize that, because those relationships will go far and wide for whatever you might want to do later, and make yourself useful in ways you're not being asked to do. So that's some advice if you're in the younger age. If you want to break into lobbying and you're not in college anymore, I would say utilize the skills that you have or the experience that you have. You had to have some career of some kind. So there's an association for everything, nationally and state. So find that association and become useful, become a source of information, and help them the best way that you can. And I am sure they will find a way to put you to work at the Capitol in some way, shape, or form. So, or if it's more the campaign side, every single elected official or person who wants to be elected always needs help on their campaign. So find somebody that you can support and believe in, and volunteer a lot, and really get some experience and make those relationships, because those folks that are behind that elected official, before they even get in, are the folks that they really carry with them and support and help whenever they can later. So that's my advice.
That's a great piece of advice. With that, we'll move into the last segment where you get the opportunity to talk anything about yourself, your future, or your organization, or if you like to promote anything, that's fine too.
That's a great part, fun. I promote my organization. I mean, it's a great place to work. It's a really great team atmosphere, and it's actually a beautiful location. We really designed it, or Howard really designed it to be an event space as well. And we have a beautiful view of our Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the World Congress Center, all walkable distance. And we do have a number of events there, and we love to have a buzz about the office to come in and out. And so anyone's welcome at any time, and to just drop by for a conversation or a drink. And we welcome that. And like I said, we do a little bit of everything. And so, we have a strategy for you for whatever your problem is. So come see us. And not only are you getting that, but you're getting a team that thoroughly enjoys working with each other and supports each other. And I think that that's something that you just can't beat.
That's awesome. And with that, we conclude this podcast. Jennifer, I like to say that, with the clarity of thought you have and the communication skills and the personality you have, I'm pretty sure you'll rock in your current position. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much. That's the greatest compliment I've ever had.
All right. Take care, Jennifer.
Thanks.